We are so back in the saddle. It is 5 minutes past the hour, 12:05 Eastern on the East Coast. Of course, July 22nd. It is a Monday. I'm Bobby Trossett alongside Sarah Ellison. This is your Ravens Lunch Hour live stream, and it is brought to you by our friends at Mantis Sleep. Ravens training camp, Sarah, commenced over the weekend. Everybody is in the building, and we are up and running on a Monday. What's up?
Woo! I tell you what, I had an awesome weekend, and a big part was because football is back. Do we have a show today jam-packed with actual now happening football content, which we've been waiting on for months, and now we have it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sights and sounds from players being back in the building. John Harbaugh making a very controversial statement about his QB. It's being talked about by Stephen A. Smith and alike elsewhere throughout the media world. Mark Andrews said some big things during his first press conference. We've got some injury and illness updates in terms of attendance, what to expect perhaps throughout the next couple days, and then a classic Friday afternoon, late afternoon, I might add, news dump. The Ravens safety need, right? That safety behind Kyle and Marcus, safety number 3, if you will, has been addressed, and a number of quick hits as well. Let's dive the heck in because there they are. Zay, Nelly, Rashad on their way in over the weekend, Sarah, reporting on time with veterans.
We got them reporting. We got Matt a Beast. Look at him. Look at him coming in with the wife beater. What's the real name? What's a better name for that? Whatever that white t-shirt is, he's showing off the guns. We've got a Jabbo. And my guy, who I think is vastly underrated, Arthur Millett's re-signed to 1 more year. He's coming in a mood. He's coming in with a vibe for sure. And of course, the Ravens productions team, they catch up with the defensive leader, Roquan Smith himself, with a quick hello with a selfie video and saying Roquan things.
What's up, Flock Nation? We back. Chin up, chest out, sunsets, no regrets. Let's get to it. See you guys out here soon.
Did anybody of course, have a better offseason than that guy?
That dude's been everywhere. He's been all around the world. And then it wasn't just that they captured people coming into the building, Bobby. Who do we got? Some of the first videos coming out of the tunnel. New assigned safety, Eddie Jackson. Again, we're going to get a reaction. And then one, Derrick Henry. Let's go. Can you feel the excitement in the air in Baltimore? Because I'm in Columbus and I can.
I sure can as well. Yeah, it just feels right? And we have a ton of substance to get to, which I'm sure a lot of you have been craving throughout this long and relatively boring offseason. It was a standard offseason in Baltimore.
Which is a good thing. It's a good thing that there was nobody that got in trouble, no arrests, right? Which you've seen with other teams, no contract controversy. So it's a good thing, but it was boring.
Ask Kansas City. Not only did they win a Super Bowl, but they had perhaps one of the most tumultuous off seasons in the history of football off seasons in terms of personnel and what happened in and outside that building. So, yes, it was a boring one, but I think for a lot of you, that is a welcome sight. John Harbaugh hit the podium over the weekend, Sarah, and had a number of things to say about Lamar Jackson, including what he is A-Tanks. Okay, so Justin Madubuike is rocking A-Tanks, and what he's really rocking is, just take a look at the right bicep, okay? Take a look.
He's rocking a lot of muscles is what he's rocking.
Take a look at the forearm.
And a smile.
Okay, look at the forearm. Look at the traps. Look at the shoulders. Did anybody have a better, you could say this about a lot of the guys, certainly Justin that got paid. Anybody have a better offseason than Justin Madubuike? Roquan was traveling. Lamar had a blast. Justin got paid, deservingly so.
Right.
Should we play the comments from John about?
Oh yeah. So
Lamar.
So the meat of the weekend, and there was a lot we could have led with this morning, right? We have the sight and the sounds. We could have led with a lot of stuff, but then John Harbaugh went off on an absolute epic 2 minutes and 43 seconds to be exact.
Okay.
Jamison Hensley, you can obviously tell when you're listening to these pressers, stories that reporters are angling for. And starting on Saturday, Jamison Hensley has been asking a recurring question to teammates and then also to John Harbaugh, which is like, how does Lamar Jackson handle all the pressure and really the brunt of focus, right? Which is what every quarterback gets, whether you win or lose. Like, he's trying to do this inside story of everybody else talking about the criticism that Lamar gets or even the praise he gets when the Ravens win and how he handles that. And John Harbaugh went off for 2 minutes and 43 seconds. We will not play the full 2:43, but I had to do at least 2 minutes of it, because when I say he went off on a rant, I'm telling you, he went off on a rant with massive, bold goals and visions. He used the words vision. But I'll let you hear it all, and then we'll talk about it on the back end.
Lamar, for whatever reason, there's a lot of great things said about Lamar, but there's a lot of stuff that's said that you got to just scratch your head about and kind of wonder, what's that person even thinking, So, but we take it personally. Lamar's a guy all his life. Lamar Jackson has been a guy who's been answering those same questions. I'm talking about since he was a kid, junior high, high school, college, the draft, the success he's had in the National Football League, and it still comes up. Okay? And he's still growing. He's got a growth mindset. He's going to get better and better, no doubt. But what does he have to do to prove himself to some people, right? And so the thing for me is it's talking about vision again. There's a vision. And I believe the Ravens and we've always had a vision for Lamar Jackson. It started with Lamar's vision and his mom's vision when he said he was going to be a quarterback. He was going to be a quarterback in high school. He's going to be a quarterback in college. He's going to be a quarterback in the National Football League. And we bought into that. We embraced it. We built an offense for it at 19. We're building another offense for it in 23 and 24 going forward, right? The next iteration of our offense around Lamar Jackson. Because in my opinion, the vision for Lamar Jackson, and it's a vision, it's something you see it like it's already happened. You can see it like it's already been done. The victory has already been won when you pour into a vision. And the vision that we have together is that Lamar Jackson is going to become and be known and be recognized as the greatest quarterback ever to play in the history of the National Football League. That's the vision, all right? It's going to happen by Lamar, his work ethic, and his brilliant talent, by all of us pouring into that effort together as a team, teamwork, and by the grace of God and God's goodwill. That's how it's going to happen. And I believe it like we've already seen it. Okay?
Woo.
Well, what a tone-setting way to begin training camp.
Right.
First time this offseason, well, in a while, that he's been in a podium setting, right, for John Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
And he decides, as Daniel Geiger just wrote, he's going to stand 10 toes down, talk up his guy, make a statement right out of the gate. He knows dang well that's going to be discussed by us and the national outlets, which we'll get to in just a bit.
Yeah.
To me, that was strategic.
Yeah. When you have a 2-minute, 43-second speech waiting, you're just waiting for the Lamar question because you know it's coming and you're ready. I feel like that was a moment where Harz was like, we're done with this. We're done with almost getting there. Like, I'm going to be the head coach and I'm going to put this vision out there for the whole world to see. And if you want to come at me, you want to come at me, you want to come at the team, you want to do all that, I don't care. This is like we're tired of coming up short. And we're going to go ahead and put out there, and we know we're going to have critics, by the way, because we have come up short. We've come up short time and time again in the playoffs. And it's like I don't care. I'm going to put it out there. And all the critics out there can make fun of us because we haven't done it yet, right? But that's the time where you most put it out there. You most put out there that it's like, we are just going to go all in. And I have seen so many comments, Bobby, from Ravens fans, Lamar fans. They absolutely loved this speech. Okay. There's a segment that absolutely loved it and said, you know what? We're going to call people out. We take it personally and we're going to take that out onto the field. And then there's the vision part of it, which is very aspirational, right? Which is him saying, the vision is for Lamar Jackson to become and be known and be recognized as the greatest quarterback to ever play in the history of the National Football League. And he says that's the vision. And it's going to be happening because of Lamar's work ethic, his talent, all of us pouring everything we have in together as a team by the grace of God and then God's will. And he's like, I know it's going to happen. It's like I've already seen it. Whew, Bobby, it doesn't get more aspirational than that. Now, that's all good. Obviously, you're going to have the critics out there. They're like, come on, John. The greatest quarterback right now is Tom Brady. Tom Brady, we have the numbers flash up on the screen. It's a little bit small. But at the end of the day, what really makes a quarterback's legacy is the rings. It's the rings. So Tom Brady has a lot of rings. He's got a lot of rings. And Lamar doesn't have any yet. And then there's plenty of quarterbacks that have multiple MVPs like Lamar has. Like I said, I think he could retire now and he'd have a strong case to be in the Hall of Fame. Right? But to become what Harbaugh just put out there, there's a long ways to go. There's for sure a long ways to go. When you're talking about when it's all said and done, you have to start ranking them. There's a long ways to go. Lamar has to beat out the current quarterback that's in the league right now, which is Patrick Mahomes, who right now is in the best place to go and become the greatest quarterback to ever play the game ahead of Tom Brady. So of course there's that part of it that's like, holy cow, there's a long ways to go. Why even put that out? And so I think that you put it out because as a coach, you have to give a vision to your players of what might be. So there's the aspirational part, which I love, the inspirational part, which I love. Then there's the actual realistic part when you start looking at the numbers and you've got, that's a tall task. And so he's left a huge door open for people to not only criticize what Lamar hasn't done in the postseason, but also criticize him and the lack of success he's had in the postseason since 2012, which is only 3 playoff wins in 11 years.
If you don't have lofty goals, aspirations, why even show up?
Yeah.
Why even show up? And Truth Bearer just left a comment and a donation to us in the live chat, and I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Truth. As much as I criticize Harbaugh, he writes, I've never seen a head coach ever speak that much life into a player. Truly believe Lamar has the talent and work ethic to back up those comments starting this season. So, to your point, Tom is universally recognized as the GOAT. Patrick Mahomes, when you take a look and do a deep dive into the numbers, he is on pace.
He's actually ahead of Brady at this point in his career.
Yes. He is more than on pace to potentially, when it's all said and done, be challenging Tom, and if not, eclipse Tom Brady, which is hard to believe. So, to me, I took this not necessarily at face value. I took these comments as, no. I'm going to build up my player as he so often has since they built this entire organization around him, as Truth just weighed in the live chat. But I'm also, maybe even more importantly, going to put forth the first tone, the first statement ahead of 2024 on day one of training camp.
Yep.
Make sure that everybody talks about this. I don't care if it comes with some of that negative light and pushback that we'll get to in just a second, because I believe in what we're building here. I believe in my quarterback, who's a 2-time MVP and a reigning one at that. I believe in what we've built around him finally in the last year or so. And this is what I'm going to instill and continue to instill this kind of confidence into not only Lamar, but the guys around him. And I don't care if I have to take some punches along the way. I have zero issues with the way in which he went about this. Others did, though.
Others did. This was, as you said, a chin out. He did what Roquan said, chin up, chest out. That was his statement, chin up, chest out. Yeah. So here comes the criticism. It's already happened this morning. We'll take a look at what non-believers have to say and who else to bring in, but Stephen A. Smith, who's fresh off his summer vacation. He's back in for all the beginning of these training camps. And so they played portions of this clip. And so he's first addressing the way Harbaugh came after media and the criticism that has been heaped on Lamar. And remember, Harbs came at it from a historical point of view. He said it's been happening to Lamar since he was a kid, before he ever became a Raven. He said he and his mom have had a pushback against people even saying to play the position. So Harbaugh's coming from all the way back then. Stephen A., I feel like, and I listened to the whole segment on, we just have a clip, but I listened to the whole segment. I think he's coming from a more lately what have people said about Lamar. So here he is. He comes at Harbaugh, Stephen A. Smith.
I respect the hell out of John Harbaugh. I think he's a great coach. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's an elite coach in the National Football League, but he also is somebody that is known for being incredibly honest. We respectfully, Coach Harbaugh, what the hell are you talking about? What is this critique and this criticism of Lamar Jackson? Where is it coming from? There's only one. You haven't been to a Super Bowl. You haven't won a Super Bowl championship. You're a two-time league MVP. There are 9 people, Molly, 9 people that have won Super Bowl championship that have been two-time league MVPs, okay? Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Johnny Unitas, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Kurt Warner, and Patrick Mahomes. Every single one of them have won a Super Bowl championship but Lamar Jackson. That is all we say. Nobody questions his ability. We used to question his ability to throw the football. That's been thrown out the window. We know how electrifying and mercurial of an athlete and a talent and a runner at the quarterback position that he is. We know what type of a game changer this brother is. Lamar Jackson is elite when he got his money. Before he got his money, all of us were sitting here saying, wait a minute now, he deserves his bag. Now, be careful, because you negotiate it for yourself.
Yeah.
You understand? And your family members were a part of it. We were worried about that because the NFL could be a very complicated apparatus. But at the end of the day, we looked at him, and nobody questioned that he deserved his money. Nobody questioned his greatness as a quarterback. Nobody questioned anything other than the fact that you have not won a Super Bowl. Now, let me get to Harbaugh.
Okay, it cuts off there because I can explain to you what he says about Harbaugh in a minute. So, okay, as I said, Stephen A is like, we used to question Lamar's arm talent. I said this last week, Bobby, when we played the clip from RG3, and RG3 said he's still criticized and he's never going to get his due, even if he wins the Super Bowl. And I think there will be a vocal minority that still do that. But in my view, I do think a ton of people have come around on Lamar. And I think we saw that with the executives voting him as not the number 4 quarterback, but it was close. He was anywhere from, he got votes from 2 to 4 by a vast majority of people. And I think that's fair. I don't think that's disrespectful. I think that's like, up from 7. I disagree with it. I would put Lamar at 2 if somebody voted for him at 4, but I don't think it's like a disrespectful level because Lamar, Burrow, and Allen are all right there. And as soon as one of them win a Super Bowl, then that puts that person over the rest. Right now, it's Patrick Mahomes, and then those 3 are fighting for the number 2 spot.
Yeah.
We also saw PFF. They had him graded as the number 3 quarterback. And I think the vast majority of people have him in that top 5 area. Now, we do have, though, the once in a while disrespectful clips like we had with Mark Schlereth, and that's why we had him on the show. So it's not completely gone. It's not completely gone. And to John's point, since Lamar's been dealing with it since he was a kid, it's hard to it's hard to forget all of that. It's like, okay, finally, and since he had to win 2 MVPs, now you all have come around. So there's still that chip on that shoulder in Baltimore where it feels like the criticism is as bad as it used to be when he was coming out of the league, because there are a few people coming around being like, I was wrong, and just straight up say, hey, I did it wrong. Then the other thing, it's a little rich coming from Stephen A to say that John Harbaugh is creating narratives. During the process, Stephen A was advocating for sure that Lamar get paid. And so much so that I felt like he created narratives to the point where
the Steelers lost, right?
Yes, but then after he got paid, Stephen A and Unk had this segment. Are the Ravens getting their money's worth? And Stephen A said no. He emphatically said no. And then later, he tried to pretend he never said it. And we've got the receipts.
Yes,
we just put up a screen grab here. He should have said he wasn't getting the money's worth. So, sorry, Stephen A. Don't call John a liar when you for sure, as soon as Lamar got paid, you started questioning whether they were getting their money's worth. So, let's not pretend you didn't criticize all that.
This was one of those remember where you were moments. I'm at the gym and this comes across the First Take headline banner, and I did a double take for the ages. Are the Ravens getting money's worth from Lamar? That was after the Steelers loss, the first of the 2 meetings that they had. What was it, October, early part of the season? One of the most ridiculous topics that you will ever see covered on ESPN, and there's plenty of those.
Yes.
Plenty of those.
Now, here's where you didn't hear, and the segment goes on. Where I think he does have a point. Because Stephen A said, oh, hold up, Harbaugh. We're not just criticizing Lamar. We're looking squarely at you. And that, I think, is another feeling that, let me see where I put this. This comes back to what Ray Dog said earlier. In his view, right, in the comment section, he said the only one stopping Lamar is John Harbaugh. You have to be a smarter coach in the postseason. And so where I do think that Stephen A. got it right was in two places. One, there are 9 other quarterbacks who have multiple MVPs plus Super Bowl rings. So for him to be in that conversation of being the greatest ever, Lamar's eventually going to win a Super Bowl. Now, what Harbaugh's saying is he thinks it's going to happen. He's already seeing it. I think it's going to happen too. But until that happens, Harbaugh left a wide open window for people to have a new criticism of saying, heck no, he's not the greatest ever, right? So that becomes the next conversation. The second thing that I think that Stephen A. said correctly, which he said later in the show, is Harbaugh, you have 3 wins in 11 seasons since the Super Bowl.
Postseason wins. Yeah.
Excuse me. Postseason wins. Thank you, Bobby, for clarifying that. You have 3 postseason wins. Now, I don't know. Joe Flacco was a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Was it just that 1 year wonder that he had? So maybe you could say, okay, he didn't have the best roster then. But since 2019, he's had several Super Bowl caliber rosters. Now, are they heads and shoulder? So these rosters head and shoulder better than what Patrick Mahomes has had? Probably not. Is it
certainly not last year? The Chiefs had probably their worst roster of their Patrick Mahomes era.
Well, yeah. So I think last year the Ravens did have a better roster. But prior to that, if we're talking about in the Lamar era, when Mahomes was sporting Tyreek Hill along with Kelsey and all, and I do think, as much as I love Harbaugh, and I do love him, I do think Andy Reid is the better coach, especially offensive play, calling plays on offense. I'd put Andy Reid number 1, and I would put Harbaugh in the top 5, though. Do I think that the Ravens roster that John Harbaugh has been given by the front office, is it heads and shoulders better than, say, San Francisco? Probably not, but they have been Super Bowl caliber rosters. Yeah. And if you're going to be one of the greatest coaches of all time, you've got to take a Super Bowl caliber roster and beat Mahomes one of these times, right? So I do think that Stephen A. finally, because locally, fans have been pointing at Harbaugh also. And I think this is the first time nationally, because we've interviewed a lot of national people, and they all give Harbaugh a pass. And this is the first time that I felt like Stephen A. passionately, or anybody nationally passionately said, wait, Harbaugh, it's on you too. We're not just criticizing Lamar. We also are criticizing you. But I don't think people have. To me, this is the first time I've really heard it passionately.
And could that be the beginning, based on how the season starts to unfold, of that sort of being a trickle-down effect of Correct. It not just pointing the finger at Lamar? Will Harbs not be looked at as secondary anymore from this point forward? Could you consider him on the hot seat if this upcoming season doesn't go in their favor and doesn't end with what they know is the ultimate goal? And that is, like, anything short of a Super Bowl at this point in Baltimore. I'm not saying that's going to get him fired, anything short of a Super Bowl. But in Baltimore, the expectations, and based on the messaging that we've heard now for over a year, that is the expectation. Anything less in terms of inside that building from the way that they communicate would be a failure.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, especially when you're putting out the aspirational goals. And that is why, though, this is what I do like about Harbaugh. I think he knows, even though nationally they haven't been calling him out as much as Stephen A. did later in the show, I think he knows that.
Yeah.
He's self-critical for sure. Yeah. And he knows that and still put out that statement. So that's what he has to do. He's the coach. He's putting out the goals. He's setting the vision, and he let it be known publicly. He put his chest out and he said it. So now it's time to back it up. And the only thing that would really, the only thing that we don't want to happen, is he would not be on the hot seat if Lamar got injured again and wasn't there for the postseason.
Sure.
But if Lamar is healthy and you have a mostly healthy team, you're not going to have everybody healthy, but you have a mostly healthy team, the expectations are clear. And the spotlight needs to be both on the head coach and the quarterback. It's always on the quarterback, but it needs to be more on the head coach, in my view, in Baltimore.
Period. We are off and rolling. Quick start. 30 minutes in which gives us a chance to tell you a little bit about Mantis Sleep, our newest brand sponsor. Not newest. They've been with us for a while. They're going to be with us all football season long. And you know what the Mantis Sleep Mask Pro is all about. Gives you true 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. Zero pressures applied to your eyelids or lashes. They've got advanced materials and ventilation for unmatched breathability. And you know, mine's right off to the left-hand side. I was rocking it last night. My brother John is in the bunk bed. I'm off to the right here at Mom's. Feels like old times again. And it's very bright in the morning, especially when he gets up before me for his internship. So that sleep mask has been coming up big. The best part is for you guys as Vault subscribers, there's a little bit of incentive if you find something that you like on mantasleep.com. If you use discount code VAULT10, that's VAULT10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off your next purchase. All that information can be found in the show notes below. A huge thank you to Mantis Sleep for sponsoring the channel and believing in what we're building. Shall we continue on with what was a busy weekend in terms of press conferences?
Yeah, I think just the last one in terms of Lamar, we'll just finish up with this one, is like I said, Jamison Hensley was asking a version of the same question to several people last week. And I really liked Mark Andrews' question on how Lamar does handle so much spotlight on him. And that's, by the way, a question for every quarterback, because again, every quarterback has the spotlight. But I loved this answer, especially the end from Mark Andrews on how Lamar handles it. Why do I have two of these videos?
Team you win and lose, but he sometimes kind of gets the brunt of it.
Yeah, I think that's a part of the position and part of being Lamar. He's grown up and had to deal with things like this his whole life, and the thing that stands out about him is he's got an incredible faith and belief in God and in himself and his teammates. And when you have belief in something else, it's easy to get through things. It's easy to help other people carry that weight, and he does a great job of just being himself and not letting the outside noise affect him.
Yeah. So listen, faith oftentimes is mocked. People want, seeing is believing. And I also think that faith can be misunderstood. Faith is a principle of action. It's not just a principle of belief. It's part belief, but faith is a principle in action. It's your belief put into action. Okay. So when you have faith in something, you actively work towards it because you believe it's going to happen. And so when he says he has faith in himself, with all the doubts he has had throughout his life, he is so grounded in his faith in himself and his faith in God. If you follow him, especially his replies, he's in his life. Well, we don't do that on X anymore. They don't have, you can't go and look at people's likes anymore. But he used to just hit likes on any post that was about Christ, right? Or his faith in this and that. Mark is hitting the nail on the head. It's so vastly underrated, having faith in yourself and in something greater than you. And Lamar exemplifies that more than anybody. So I just wanted to give a shout out to faith and Lamar's faith and remind people that it's not just a blind belief. It's a principle of action working towards something that you believe absolutely is going to happen.
Well said. You know what Mark Andrews embodies?
What?
Leadership.
Hard work? Oh, yeah. Oh.
Leadership.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Andrews builds his peers up, says everything with intention, good intention, and he is as locked in and as dialed in tunnel vision as I have ever seen. He understands what we talked about earlier, that anything less than a Super Bowl is going to be non-satisfactory. And he's going to be a big factor as to why that's the case.
There is nobody that rides harder, maybe just as much, but nobody rides harder for Lamar than Mark Andrews.
No, without question. Let's get to some news and notes from the first couple days of camp. And by the way, day 2 is actually commencing in about an hour from right now. It's 77 degrees, 25% chance of rain in the Baltimore area. Harbaugh, King Henry, Eddie Jackson, the newest Ravens safety, and Odafe Oweh will meet with the media, which of course we will get into tomorrow during our Ravens lunch hour live stream on Tuesday. But this was sort of the big news. Mm-hmm. Lamar himself was actually not practicing on day 1. and the Ravens sent him home with an illness. Josina Anderson weighing in that it was described to her as, quote, pretty bad. And then she went on to say, we'll see how long it extends after preventing the Ravens quarterback from participating in the team's first training camp practice on Sunday. We've seen this before, Sarah. Certainly, you double take. It makes you think, but not overthink. Let's not overthink this.
Lamar is definitely good for 2 sick days per season. So if this is getting one of those out of the way, I will say this, and listen, everybody has their own, I'm not going to get into the business of Lamar Jackson's health, right? But I do wonder, is there something, just because it's always been it seems to be stomach related?
Yeah.
I do wonder, it took me until I was maybe, I was probably 40 when I realized I got to lay off dairy altogether. You know what I mean? There's just certain stuff, or is there a GI tract thing is all I'm putting out there.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Because there's no way a 27-year-old is in shape and as healthy as he is. And by the way, he's been public about how he's been eating really well, right?
Yeah.
He's he was just on Men's Health. He was had a video. We'll have to highlight another day where he talked about his workout schedule and his eating schedule. I mean, he's got cooks, he's got all of that. So I don't think it's that anymore. He's not he's eating at 7-Eleven the way he used to, right? So I do wonder if they should get him into a doctor just to do some tests to see if that's what it is.
You and I can relate on this front. You just mentioned it took you a few years, and I suffer from colitis on a daily basis, and it impacts the way that I eat. I have an extremely bland diet. It's not exotic, but it works for me, and I feel good.
Right.
So
is it that? Is it gluten? Is it dairy? Yep. Is there something that he just is unaware of, as many of us, until we're older?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of the headliner. But then in terms of when you get into the nitty gritty of who was not seen practicing and did not practice on day one of training camp, Lamar was at the top of this list. Unsurprisingly, Keaton Mitchell, also, who continues to rehab his way back from last year's knee injury. He is going to begin the year on the physically unable to perform list, as we learned last week. Adisa Isaac will be as well. We know that was a non-football injury list that from last week that we learned. That's a hamstring setback for the rookie out of Penn State. And then we now know what TJ Tampa has been dealing with, which was a mystery as of last week, and that is a sports hernia. So TJ, Adisa, two of the rookies that are going to be sidelined at the start of camp. Jameson also noted in his tweet that Keaton could return sometime in November, as we learned over the weekend.
Well, so a couple or three notes on this. Number one, to expand on TJ Tampa, Jeff Zrebeck is reporting it's going to take him out a couple weeks. Not ideal for a rookie. This is the most, I feel bad for him. This is such a formative part. If you're going to be able to play in your rookie season, it's really too bad, but he's going to have to, obviously you always have to play it safe and make sure things don't get worse. Number two, this is a really good practice report. I mean, it's healthy. Things are great. I mean, Lamar, that's an illness, not an injury, right? TJ Tampa, just a couple weeks. Adisa Isaac, your rookie, hamstring. I mean, it's just all about and then we know Keaton Mitchell's the only serious injury to have. I believe, I think that puts him at 86 of 91 there at practice. Really good. And one of them is just Lamar being ill. Now, one of the reasons why I brought in Jameson's summary of who missed yesterday, because there's a million reporters that put it. He's the first time I've ever seen anybody put a month on a return date. That was not said at podium. Also, I saw no other reporters put out the November month. But knowing Jameson, I don't think he's putting out months willy-nilly. So something tells me that side conversations, but they haven't made it official. People are kind of floating November out there, and maybe it's been so in their minds that they knew it was November with these side conversations that maybe he just put it out there, because I do trust Jameson on this type of stuff.
Okay.
So November is now a month that I'll be looking at, even though it is not official.
And it's not far off from what we were ballparking, more so speculating within the last couple months this offseason. One note on TJ Tampa, this just jogged my memory. I was trying to think within the last couple of years who the rookie was that also had a sports hernia flare up during his first training camp. I did a quick Google search and I realized it was actually Charlie Kohler.
Yeah.
And he underwent surgery, if you can remember, back in the summer of 2022. Sarah, he wasn't cleared to practice until October that season, and it really did not allow him. And granted, the tight end room was stacked, as we know, the year that he came in, but it didn't allow him, kind of what you were referencing a minute ago, to hit the ground running with the rest of his rookie class. And so let's hope this doesn't linger for TJ, because that is a tough position. Obviously, it's tough for any rookie, but cornerback on the fly, given how much competition that he has among his peers, let's hope that this is a multi-week thing and not something that'll linger on him.
Absolutely. Well said. What were the other? Oh, so Jeff wanted to say it was notable that Eddie Jackson, who we know just literally signed a couple hours before practice started, he was already on the field, which we already showed a video of him coming out with Derrick Henry. But this is really big news. David Ojabo was out there. Remember, Ojabo just had ACL surgery in November. And the last time we got an update from Harbaugh is he didn't know. He kind of thought Ojabo might be back at some point during training camp, certainly not the first day. So I think this is a really good sign that he's out there day one. And as Jeff noted, he was pretty much full go. He wasn't like to the side. He wasn't just doing individual workouts. Like, he was full go. Yeah. And then obviously we already knew this. We didn't have too much worries, but Kyle Hamilton, who had offseason elbow surgery, that did not prevent him from being out there. And then finally, Mark Andrews, we kind of talked about this after he was highlighted in the Wired minicamp, but he said that he feels awesome from his ankle injury. Remember, he worked really hard to come back for that AFC Championship game, but he said, I feel 100%, if not better than I ever have.
I think this soundbite is of him as well, right? The second one that's labeled Lamar. I think this is Mark talking.
Oh, maybe it is.
So let's see here.
Let's see.
The team, you win and lose, but sometimes.
No.
I have it if you want me to play it. If you want me to bring it in.
Yeah, why not? If it's not too long.
Mark.
But something, just to paraphrase, Mark talking about how I was listening to some of the other folks that have been out there in person, and they're just saying the beat reporters are on the scene saying, like, eye test is telling you that Mark does not look like he has even an ounce of setback, like, meaning his rehab, given that the majority of his rehab, Sarah, as you know, had to be done prior to the AFC Championship game. So that meant that if that's now in the rearview mirror, then this entire offseason could be dedicated to strength training and building yourself back up, which is exciting.
Yes, I do not have that video, by the way. So
we'll keep moving.
All right.
We will keep moving, and which is obviously good news along the lines of Marlon Humphrey. Ryan Mink, bird's eye view. Marlon was a standout on the first day of Ravens camp. Practiced fully and was very sticky. Looked like he may have slimmed down a bit and is in great shape. So for Kyle Hamilton to be back out there, for Marlon Humphrey to be back out there, and to your point, for David Ojabo to be all back out there, and all three of them being on full go day one, that's a win.
That's a win. Here's John Harbaugh on Marlon Humphrey.
Shape, you saw it today in practice. He looked great. Gives us some great versatility in the back end, moving guys around. So, I would never discount Marlon Humphrey if I was an opponent. I believe in Marlon. I think he's one of the best players, one of the very, very best corners in the National Football League.
And by the way, it wasn't just Ryan Mink who said that Marlon Humphrey looked good yesterday. I was reading Jeff's notes, and he also was like, yeah, Marlon was standing out big time. So hopefully this is a comeback year where he's ticked off and wants to prove that he has not fallen off at just, 27 years old. Still plenty of football ahead for Marlon.
Elsewhere, some notes here. Is this from Jeff's?
Yeah, so this is from Jeff. So overall, he said that it was kind of not the most exciting day, which they're not trying to go, they're ramping up in training camp. They don't come in super crazy or super hard. They're trying to ramp up to make sure that it's injury prevention, right? We don't need all these hamstrings pulled or muscles or anything like that. And so he said with Lamar there, there just wasn't a lot going on offense, especially downfield. He did say the exception was Isaiah Likely making a back shoulder reception. I don't know if you saw it, Bobby, the Ravens productions put out a video of that, and Likely had to do a huge adjustment on it. It was a throw from Josh Johnson, and it was wobbly, and Likely had to come back for it. So that was good from Likely. He said that Andrews and Zay Flowers were pretty much active and productive in the intermediate field. He said Rashad Bateman looked comfortable, or he said he was comfortable. we're going to get to more. I couldn't get to all the clips. We're going to get to more to Zay and Rashad later this week. But in terms of practice, Zrebiec said he caught a pass and then spun outside for a nice gain that would have been bigger had the wide receiver not fallen. Oh, he fell. Okay. So there's that. And then he said Justice Hill made the first play by catching a wheel route from Johnson. And Williams wisely pulled up on the play to avoid a collision with Hill.
Good.
So
yeah, there's no need to do anything extra.
We don't need anything extra.
Up, yeah. And speaking of ramping up, Sarah, someone who perhaps is sucking some wind here in the early going is a candidate for starting right guard, and that is Daniel Faalele. Jeff wrote that he appeared to be struggling with the hot and humid conditions.
Mm-hmm.
He was on one knee for an extended stretch of practice. He's a 380-pound third-year pro. He has had issues throughout his young career dealing with the heat. Aside from Jeff, veteran offensive lineman Josh Jones was forced to run separate laps after 2 pre-snap penalties.
Got to figure this out.
For sure. Good to know that Todd's rules apply to offensive linemen as well, not just the playmakers that we saw from last week on Ravens Productions in that meeting room. But veteran cornerback Arthur Maulet got the first interception of training camp. He went down to the ground to haul in a Josh Johnson pass that deflected off the hands of wide receiver Malik Cunningham, who's still scratching and clawing and fighting to make this 53-man roster, Sarah.
One other note that I didn't put in here, it was probably the play of the day, according to many people, was when Devin Leary hit why am I forgetting his name? It's a super depth wide receiver, Dayton Wade. Wade. So they said that was really the play of the game, of the day. So you know that training camp wasn't all that exciting when it was like Leary throwing to Wade, and that was like the play of the day.
For sure. But good reps nonetheless. And perhaps Dayton's a practice squad guy that, if they're ever in a bind, can be somebody that's useful. The classic Friday late afternoon news dump.
Doesn't it feel like a year since this has happened, Bobby? It's crazy we haven't reacted to it yet because so much has happened since.
No kidding. Given the abundance of content, I just happened to be in a place where I could do a quick little live in between painting on Friday night that I said, you know what, let me just go give some reaction to this. So Friday afternoon, Adam Schefter tweets a Ravens type of move, given the timing. 2-time Pro Bowler Eddie Jackson at safety reached agreement with Baltimore on a 1-year deal. He's a safety with 6 defensive touchdowns for the Bears. He's a part of the Bears I think he was named one of the 100 greatest Bears. Like, that's how great of a career he had in Chicago. And now he's going to bring his talents to Baltimore, Sarah. I was not surprised at all to see the news, maybe the name more so than the piece of news. But as you highlighted on social, here's sort of his credentials.
It's a lot. He's got a lot of credentials. So he's obviously an 8-year vet. He's just 30 years old. He's got 2 Pro Bowls and an All-Pro under his belt. He can play both free safety and strong safety. You know that we love these positionless players in Baltimore. Yep. He's obviously projected to be the number 3 safety. So yes, he's 30 years old. No, he's not an All-Pro anymore. But remember, this is for a third safety. I've seen a lot of people happy about it. Then I saw a lot of people say, oh, this is trash. He's trash now. And it's like, bro, we're not trying to get Kyle Hamilton's an All-Pro.
Yeah.
Marcus Peters, if he's healthy, has a chance. Do you expect them to have 3 All-Pros or 3 Pro Bowlers at the safety position? Like, sometimes I just wonder what people's expectations are. It's so funny to me.
Well, the funny thing is like they have like a short memory. Like Jamal Adams was just in the building 2 months ago. He's like, would you rather have had him?
Right. I mean, I wouldn't have hated that one, but this one does feel like a better fit. I mean, Wink talked about how Jamal Adams is more an inside linebacker now, but Jackson is legitimately can play free safety and strong safety. He can do both. And he did have a down year last year, but remember, Bobby, we know this. He had a Liz Frank injury in 2022.
Yeah.
That is not a 1-year injury. That is a 2-year injury to be 100%. So before that, when he went down, I think it was in I want to say week 6 for some reason. It could have been between 6 and week 9. but he had 4 interceptions that year before he went down.
He's a ball hawk.
Like, to have 4 interceptions in 6 or 7 weeks, that's nice. It's nice to have another ball hawk. So he's obviously a former teammate of Roquan Smith from the Bears when they were at the Bears together. And he's also a former teammate of Marlon Humphrey when they were together at Alabama. You can see pictures here highlighted of both of them. And so what Eddie Jackson is, he represents a guy, as I said, is a third safety, but he unlocks Zachary Orr to be able to use Kyle Hamilton as the ultimate chess piece, put him at strong safety, put him at free safety, put him at outside linebacker, put him at inside linebacker, put him outside as a corner. He did all of those last year. He was literally at every single one of those positions. It's like, might as well just put him in for Michael Pierce at this point, right? Just see what happens, because that's the only place he seemed to not be last year where he got snaps. And so, Eddie Jackson, not going to say he's like still the best ever, but my goodness, Bobby, this defensive backfield looks pretty sick.
Here's a look. Here's a look at sort of the top 6, if you will. Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey leading the way, of course. Marcus Williams as the savvy vet, still getting paid. Nate Wiggins just getting his career started as a former first rounder from this past April. Brandon Stevens coming off a breakout year. Eddie Jackson now another vet that kind of bolsters the group. We haven't mentioned the likes of TJ Tampa. We haven't mentioned, potential rookie in Sanusi Kane, who maybe goes down the route of like an incremental development, like the way that guys that have come before him have, similar draftees, right? Like Deshaun Elliott and Geno Stone and Chuck Clark. So, and then who knows, maybe an undrafted rookie finds his way into this, like a former undrafted rookie in Ardarius Washington. So that's your no-fly zone, if you will.
No-fly zone. I mean, it's a thing of beauty for sure.
Yeah.
Now here's they can even sustain a couple injuries and still be a top unit. But here's the question: we know that Eddie Jackson takes the spot of Geno Stone.
Mm-hmm.
You feel good about that exchange?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I chugged water. Yes.
No, I feel good about that exchange. I mean, Geno Stone, let's see how much he was paid. Geno Stone went to, where did he go? Cincinnati?
Yep.
Okay. So he went to Cincinnati and he was paid 2 years for $14 million.
Okay.
So that's $7 million average salary with a $3 million signing bonus.
Eddie's going to be well south of that, right?
Eddie's going to be well south of that. I don't think we've gotten any numbers yet. Let me just Google one more time. But he's for sure going to be south of that.
Yeah,
and so the question is, can you get the same production at number 3 safety or as a depth piece if somebody goes down? And I feel like you can.
Yeah.
I feel like you can.
Yeah.
Now, there are questions, by the way, about his tackling. So I will take a note of that. Maybe that was because of his foot partially. But that's not Baltimore Ravens football.
No.
We've had a couple guys come through here that didn't like to tackle, and they didn't last very long. So you better get your shoulder in there and do what you got to do.
Well, bookmark it. We'll have to revisit that. And hopefully we don't have to revisit that. More from Ryan Mink on the scene, day 1 of training camp. Justin Madubuike said that he spent his time off before training camp training in Atlanta with Coach Des Walker, at Coach Des Walker, like he has the past 3 seasons, off seasons, I should say. And Madubuike also brought along teammates Odafe Owe, David Ajabo, and Tavius Robinson. So a nice little cultivating bond there from the vet who got paid and said, hey, this has worked for me in terms of my development, the way that I spend my off season.
Yep.
Why don't you guys come along with me?
I love hearing that. I mean, we focus so much about quarterbacks throwing to wide receivers in the offseason, and that has been mostly our focus and what we've talked about. But I like this. Like, yep. Odafe Owe, Ajabo, and Robinson all want to grow and break out the way Madubuike did.
Yep.
So I like that he included them. And then when Madubuike was at podium on Saturday. Now, remember, it happened so long ago, and it was so drama-free that you can sometimes forget that earlier this offseason, he signed a 4-year, $98 million contract extension in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And so he was asked, right? This is the guy that puts pressure on quarterbacks. This is the guy that wants to make them sweat. But do you now, Matabike, after being paid that much, do you now feel pressure? And by the way, when you get paid $98 million, I like to hear that he's taking these other defensive linemen, outside linebackers with him to go work out. And he said, teams are definitely going to be blocking me differently. He's expecting that. That's another reason why you want to get Odafe and Ojabo and all them doing their thing, because then they can't just focus on Matabike. He said they're going to try to slow me down. He said, so you could say pressure. He's saying I feel pressure in terms of pressure from myself to stay polished and stay focused and stay better than last year. That's the only pressure I feel. So, I mean, he's one of the top players at the position. So here we go. We can have no drop off.
Yeah. That reminds me of the way Harbs referred to Lamar earlier on in that clip. A growth mindset. That's what it feels like there from number 92. And by the way, if you're wondering who Coach Des Walker is, he is a pass rush specialist that Justin knows well. Again, he's spent the last 3 seasons with him teaching, developing, coaching pass rush specialists. If you go take a look at Des on Instagram at Des_55, if you want to take a look at what Justin's offseason has been like, there's some snapshots of it there. This was a hysterical quick hit from over the weekend, and we've actually had Paul Kaharski on our show.
Yeah.
He is a Tennessee Titans reporter, a huge following, been in that market for a long time, and he riled up the Titans fan base when he tweeted the following. If you root for Derrick Henry to the extent that you want the Ravens to win so much as a game, you are not the Titans fan you think you are. Period. Not up for debate. If they are on the goal line at the end of a game, meaning the Ravens, and they're trailing by 4, and you want him to score, you are not the Tennessee fan you think you are. This has millions of impressions, millions of views, probably because King Henry over the weekend came in and quote tweeted Paul, Sarah, saying, Paul, go find something to do.
Because Derrick isn't a talker. So this was his way of pushing back. But he did it in a total mean kind of way. He's like, just go find something to do, Paul. Come on. Don't.
Sarah, we were just talking about how quiet he is, how unassuming he is. And then he goes and claps back in the most polite of ways to Paul, and the thing blows up. I got a good laugh at this.
Listen, remember a couple weeks ago we had a discussion because Rashad Bateman was saying that, he has to be able to block out the noise and all the haters and all that. And then I did this long tweet that it's like, you need to fall into one of 4 categories with social media. If you get triggered easily, you need to turn social media off. If you want to push back, if you want to, I can't remember whatever categories there was, but there was a 3rd category that I put myself in, that when I push back, I like to do it in a way that's not degrading to people, right? Yeah. This is exactly where players I think should live, where you clapped back and everybody can be happy that you stood up for yourself, but you didn't degrade him. Right? It's just go find something to do. That's where I think this is the most perfect place to be. If you're going to push back on social media, you got to find lines like this.
So an A+ from your chart then is what
A+ on my chart.
Absolutely.
You made it to category 3. One other thing I just want to say. Half I agree with Paul, half I don't. I was not cheering for Joe Flacco when he went to the Browns as much as I love him. Right? Yep. We had that, and some plans were just look, I'm gonna, so leave me alone. So that's where I lived, but in no way in the world was I going to tell people that they weren't Ravens fans anymore if they were going to cheer on Joe, right? That's where I feel like he went too far. It's do we really want to hear anybody rooting for example, Patrick Queen? Because by the way, to the Titans, we're the Steelers to the Titans, right? They see us as a bigger, they're definitely a rival, but I think they see us bigger than we see them in terms of rivalry. And so Joe Flacco went to the AFC North rival. Patrick Queen went to the rival. So you can't be cheering for that rival to do well, but I'm also not going to say you're not a Ravens fan if you still have some love for them and are cheering for them in a personal way.
If you go back to Paul's mentions, he kind of talks about exactly that. He said, I'm looking for the tweet itself about how hated Baltimore is by the fan base. I thought he had something in here. Of course, now I can't find it. But yeah, he did. He was very outspoken about the way in which Tennessee perceives or just straight up views the Ravens fan base. So
Oh yeah.
anyway, I
Oh
got a
yeah.
good kick out of that.
It
But
was funny.
and to see Paul with such opinion as sort of a maybe he's not as by the book as I thought he was, but we're certainly going to have him
Yeah,
on again when these two teams meet.
That's the other thing is like I would never expect where is Paul reporting now?
Paul works for himself. It is
Okay.
paulkaharski.com.
What did he use? Where did
and-
he used to write?
Yeah, he doesn't have it in his bio. It had to have been a local feel, right?
Like I want to say the Tennessean or something.
I
Like
mean,
I
what a
could.
beast. He's got over 107,000 followers on Twitter.
It's pretty good.
So
But I could never see like a Jeff Zrebeck or a Jamison Hensley or any of the
Ever.
guys that are supposed to be objective.
ever.
Now, somebody that's worked for the team, like, so I could see a Ryan Mink writing this, right? Because he works for the team, or I used to work for the team, or like, I don't hide that I want the Ravens to win. Like, I don't hide
Yeah.
that because not
Yeah.
only do I want that because I worked for the team, but business is good for us when the Ravens win. I'll tell you what, when we do a game day show after a loss, it's like half the traffic, which isn't
Absolutely.
good for us and sponsors and all that, right?
Yeah.
But if you've been a down the road like reporter, like even when we hired John Eisenberg, right? He was when we hired John Eisenberg. Oh, and I loved working with John. He was such a
He's
good
a
guy.
good guy.
Or Clifton Brown, right?
Yeah, both
So
of
they
those guys
both-
are good dudes.
Such good dudes. Those guys came from what you have to be the traditional journalist, right? You have
Yeah.
to be the traditional journalist. You do not take sides. You do not root for the team that you're covering. When John Eisenberg came over, like you would, like any employee, he would be given Ravens polos. He'd be given all that kind of stuff. We all got that kind of stuff. John Eisenberg, while working for the Ravens, would never, ever, ever wear purple. Like he was always,
I kind of love that.
yeah, he would never do it. And I respected that about him. So for Paul to do it, it was a little surprising.
Look at Derek, one of the last Ravens on the field over the weekend, signing autographs for the young kids who made it out as fans. Now that it's open, training camp practices are open. If you got those passes early on, they went in like 10 minutes. So Jeff captured this. And by the way,
Good
you
on
just mentioned
Derek.
before we finish up the quick hits there. Yeah, he's a great dude. Before we finish up the quick hits, you just made me jog my memory on something I wanted to tell everybody. You were like, hey, when after losses, obviously traffic drops off significantly, and that's not great for sponsors. I just want to let everybody know that we have a couple great opportunities brewing. And if you're interested in working with us from an advertising standpoint this upcoming season, please feel free to reach out. Or if you know someone or a company that would be a good fit with us, email us, BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. Over the next month or so, we kind of finalize partnerships. We put together different shows that we're working on for this upcoming season, and brand sponsors are a big part of what we do here. And if you guys follow the channel, if you've been with us from the jump, you know how important those aspects are for what we do on a daily basis. So go ahead. If you're interested, get those thinking caps on. If you find anything or if you come up with anything, we'd love to hear from you. Before we finish, though, partner, this was just a follow-up from what we led with on Friday, and it was kind of exactly what you and I were alluding to during our show, the live stream on Friday, right? We were like, okay, this is probably, when it comes to Lamar Jackson disputing Troy Aikman's trademark bid for the number 8, okay, this is probably like between legal teams. Like there's no animosity, we were thinking, between the players themselves. Now, we can't guarantee that, but Troy's having some fun with it on Twitter. He said, hey, Lamar, looks like a worthy conversation over a couple cold 8 in caps beers, which is his beer,
Right.
Troy's beer. Maybe Steve Young can arbitrate. I know you got a good laugh out of this one.
I did. It's exactly what I figured, that like copyright law and all that, trademarks, it's no joke. Like it can get pretty cutthroat. But like I said, I wondered, could it be that it's more that our people have to be that way? And here Troy is. Now, Lamar never responded, but he didn't tag Lamar either. And I don't know how much traffic that got, but I thought that was pretty funny from Troy.
I did as well.
Yeah.
And in closing.
Yeah, closing. I just wanted to throw this out there because I am, what's the word? Concern is not the right word. Whatever the word is beneath concern. While we're waiting for Keaton Mitchell, I could use a little bit more security, let's say, in the depth at the running back room, right? So I don't know if this is one of those comments where John Harbaugh was building up Saleh a couple years ago and nothing came from it. But I thought it was at least notable to bring it in as a quick hit. Sure. Maybe not as like a full topic discussion, but as a quick hit, John Harbaugh was asked about running back Owen Wright. And by the way, Owen Wright was asked about because he was getting a lot of reps in practice.
Yep.
So they're like, what do you think of him? And John Harbaugh said, quote, I just talked about Owen yesterday. And I said, I think you're going to be a surprise breakout kind of guy.
Wow.
And then he says, I think he's going to pick up where he left off last year. This is, like I said, he was undrafted guy last year. I think he was on the practice squad for most of the year. He said, I think he's going to pick up where he left off and try to make a name for himself. So
okay,
I think he's got an opportunity. Obviously, you have Derrick Henry there. But in terms of depth, I think he's got an opportunity.
Let's take note of it. If that ends up being the case, something took place probably with Justice and or Rasheen.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what happens. He's been in the system for a while. He's a former undrafted rookie. Let's take note of that.
Sure.
Prince Lee, thanks for the donation. Appreciate you. He says, I just want to say how much I appreciate you guys. We appreciate you. Thanks for your support through Patreon. Let's see. KG? Is that
QG?
QG, you think?
Mm-hmm. That's what I think. QUE?
But if it's Spanish, that's K. Poor K.
Oh, that's true.
But, we'll have to see. QG,
but
how about that?
He's just got the letter Q in there, which is, Q.
Finally catching a live stream. We're glad you did.
Yeah.
Truth Bearer from earlier on, as we displayed on the screen when this one came in. We appreciate you. And that was about it today. It's funny. Somebody said, hi, Mom, earlier, and I thought one of your kids was on the stream, but I don't think that was the case.
I literally can see out my window. This is a perfect summer day. My kids right outside my window here are on the sidewalk in front of my house, and they've got a lemonade / candy cotton candy machine. They're trying to sell it out here. So they're out there trying to make money. They've been talking about businesses all summer. They're out there in it's only 75. It's a perfect day for it. So.
I know Mom is proud about that. A couple future entrepreneurs
there we
out
go.
there getting
there
after it. That's where it starts.
It's the girls out there doing that right now, the youngest ones.
Let's get it.
Yep.
Love everything about that. Layla C. and Christopher Washington, this is your monthly shout out. And we just want to say thank you for all the support that you give us through Patreon. If you guys are interested in the same, you can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. Being the training camps just commenced, it's a great time to hop on the bandwagon for as little as $1.99. Literally $1.99 a month. You can support our channel on the back end. It really helps just the daily operation that goes into Monday through Friday live streaming. So thanks all of you guys for that consideration. And thanks to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this live stream. If you guys are interested in getting a mask, a sleep mask, which I swear by, Sarah's family does as well, you can visit the show notes below. And if you use code VAULT10, VAULT10, you'll get 10% off your next purchase. This is about as jam-packed and compact as it gets. I really enjoyed this one. Hope you did as well, partner, and hope everybody else did as well. And we'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. Everything good on your end?
Everything's good. See you in 23 hours.
23 hours from right now, Tuesday, Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll talk to you then. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel. Football is so back. We hope that you'll be with us all summer as we get ready for the 2024 Ravens season in Baltimore. Thanks, guys.